This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Grow Your Clinic podcast. I'm your host, Jack O'Brien. Thank you for joining me again. We really appreciate you trusting us with your car stereo, your AirPods, whatever it might be. We have another guest for you on the podcast today, and it's 2 for 1, double trouble, and who knows what's going to happen in this episode. It could go anywhere, but I am super stoked to have Raph and Lachy from the Mind Muscle Project join us today. Boys, how you going?
Very well, thanks.
Great.
Yeah, looking forward to the threesome.
Yeah, well, I don't get a threesome very often, so this is
first for everyone. Yeah.
It's like
right, exactly.
Where's my microphone?
Three boys.
Super. Well, we're going to dive into the story of the Mind Muscle Project and creature fitness and all those things soon. But a couple of quick rapid fire questions so you guys can choose who goes first. But what are you reading right now?
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Fuck, that's what I'm reading.
Right. Well, that's easy.
Yeah.
So if you want to pick that book, I'm actually reading it. It's actually a fatherhood book. It's got like famous fathers like Mark Wahlberg and whatever, Hugh Jackman, and it has like a story from each one. I think it's like New Fatherhood or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice. Are you a dad?
No, that's why I'm reading the book. So I always study before the test.
Yeah, good.
Losers.
I like it. I'm going to divert a little bit here because I know you boys love the little Netflix spot on your podcast. So what are you watching right now?
We just watched Bill Gates's Inside the Mind of Bill Gates.
Bill's great.
Yeah, 3-part series, and it's like really interesting. It's more around a little bit around his history, but then also like what he's doing now with his charity work.
If anyone's familiar with the Explained series, I watched because they're releasing a new episode every week now. So I watched the one on cults and I watched the one on billionaires recently.
Yeah, I watched Billionaires. Yeah,
so it was good. It was really good.
So good. I love the Gates one. It's quite timely for us. We launched a Clinics for Good mantra, and the difference he makes is unreal. Cool. Thank you. Who inspires you? Who do you look to for inspiration?
Well, our business coach gave us a really good video of Jacko Willink this week.
Oh yeah.
Pretty inspiring, man. I think his podcast, like he's really nailed like the inspiration stuff, but without sounding cheesy, like American cheesy. I don't know. He just like found the sweet spot.
I don't know. Sometimes just the small things that average people do. I think sometimes that they don't have to be superstars, but just against their own personal circumstances, that they kind of go above and beyond. It's just kind of like small inspiration. Heroes are heroes, but sometimes the everyday hero goes a long way as well.
It's unreal. Love it. What did you want to be growing up?
What I want to be?
Yeah.
Definitely a sportsman. It was like mostly rugby player. Well, I played soccer when I was younger before that,
okay.
But yeah, it was definitely a rugby player. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. So, spoiler.
Yeah. The honest answer is like I would have loved to have been like a pro video gamer at one point. I'm sure if you asked me, because I took that shit like professional sport.
It wasn't even that good then. Imagine how much you'd want to be that now.
Back then there was only like a really small amount of games that were being played for money, and even then,
like Halo,
Call of Duty, and even then you weren't making that much money off it. I think the top prize was like maybe like $30,000. Now it's like $4 million. For like
it's mental. Actually, one of the CM team is just, well, hopefully this is all right to go public, but he's launching esports.physio. So it's physio for esports specifically. It's awesome.
They fucking need that.
Oh my God. So
the athletes, right?
The athletes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're next up badly. Yeah.
It's so good. I love it. What's a motto that you live by?
There's always like a few quotes that ring around in my head, but the one that I've been dwelling on recently, I think they're all contextual, right? Some just resonate with you more at different times in your life, but the one that's resonating with me at the moment, I do follow a few like Stoic philosophy pages on Instagram. Yeah. And one that stood out the other day was, man suffers more in his own imagination than he does in reality. And I think that's it's pretty true, right? These Stoic quotes, like they resonate with people obviously for thousands of years. That's why they're on Instagram, and at one point they were on a stone tablet or whatever. Yeah, you can get so caught daydreaming and being miserable about certain things, or being anxious about certain things that, often your reality is nothing like that. So I really like it.
It's cool, man. I love that stuff. I think Holiday's coming out with a new book soon too. Ryan Holiday, Obstacle is the Way, was kind of my first dive into that stuff. It's funny, it's not the stuff that you come across first as you're in business. Yeah, it's always Gary Vee or Kerwin or whatever. You come across the Stoics a little bit later and you're like, yeah, damn, that's real.
Yeah, Stillness is the Key is the new one. Yeah.
That's it. Spot on.
Download, yeah.
Love it. All right, let's dive into your story. Tell us, what do you guys do now? I know you got a gym and you got a podcast. Tell us a bit about those.
Yeah, so I would say it's now actually becoming a very long story. It was really short when we started the podcast, but Lachy and I started the gyms when we were 21. So Lachy was a trainer. I was basically doing a business law degree at uni, and Lachy was actually at uni as well. And we bonded over doing CrossFit. Lachy was an intern in one of the better CrossFit gyms in Australia, doing CrossFit as a trainer. And we really, really loved it. We frothed at it. We're pretty good at it as well, but we definitely thought we'd do a better job. So really young, still at uni, we started our first gym. And basically we've gone down our own journey of speaking to the best mind in health and fitness by running a podcast and growing it to one of the biggest health and fitness podcasts in Australia, and running a gym with hundreds of clients and serving more and more the person we want to serve, which is busy professionals, small business owners that want to take control of their health and fitness. We realized that, I think a bit like what we thought we could do a better way at our CrossFit gym, we thought we could do an even better way of the CrossFit training as well. We started to develop our own training and our own motto, and that comes across in our podcast and comes across what we deliver in our 3 gyms.
Yeah, I would say to add on to that as well, outside of our careers, personally, for us, the gym was always a sanctuary. Raph used gym to improve his sport performance, and he was one of the smallest guys growing up, and I was one of the skinniest guys growing up. So
one of the smallest guys of all time.
Yeah. And I was just super skinny. Love sport and stuff. Raph loves sport, but obviously some insecurities drove us into the gym and helped us to kind of become gym rats, for lack of a better term. And over time we just kind of fell in love with different methods, and it's almost like you just look back at all the different periods of what you were obsessed with, bodybuilding, strength training, CrossFit, gymnastics, all this stuff. And sort of you realize over time that no method is sacred and no method is better than another. It's just all different tools that you can use at different times. We both competed in the sport of CrossFit as well at regionals. So that was a really cool experience. We took heaps out of that. And you just learn lots along the way, and you develop heaps along the way. And I think now we're in a really good place with our training where we can share a lot of our experiences and our lessons with our clients and with people on the podcast. When we were young, we were just going full steam ahead. We were ignoring injuries. We were, doing double days. We were overtraining. We had no idea about nutrition. We were just eating whatever we could. And there's a lot to learn from that. And I think the people that stuck with us, maybe you were listening to us at that sort of time as well, you just kind of hear this interesting journey of now where we come out of it on the other side. And you're just kind of looking back at your experiences and thinking to yourself, wow, CrossFit seemed like the best thing at the time. And now it was just one part of the whole journey of health and fitness.
It's fascinating. And I think for listeners, the similarity between owning a gym and specifically CrossFit to something like physio or podiatry is that it's really difficult to differentiate. Yeah. If you're just another, and I say this with respect, but just another CrossFit affiliate, people end up shopping around on price. And similarly with physio, you end up just another physio clinic that people feel like it's a commodity, it's a service. So I'm fascinated with your journey. Help us understand how you've now differentiated away from just being known as a CrossFit gym.
It's an ever-going challenge, 100%. Everybody comes and they're just desperate to put you into a box because they can't put you in the box. It's almost hard for them even to understand what you are in their own head.
Well, they want to identify what they're doing.
Yeah, they need to understand. But
I'm an F45.
What gym is this?
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably the biggest battle we have at the gym is every single day, differentiating it to our existing clients, to our coaches, to ourselves. Obviously the first most visual step we did was taking CrossFit out of our name. You can't differentiate yourselves as not a McDonald's if you still have a McDonald's sign at the front. They just don't buy it no matter how many times you say it. What didn't work for us was just having the CrossFit sign up and trying to just point to being marginally better than everyone else. That was our first attempt. Right. It was so it's like them, but a little bit better. $4 more expensive. That was literally
better coaching.
Yeah. So and that just doesn't work very well. And then I think where we've come to more now is obviously taking it out of the name, really changed the look of it and all the messaging around it. So we have really different messaging to what you would normally see at a CrossFit gym, a totally different onboarding and sales process to what you would normally get at another gym.
Right.
So while they might try and put us in the box, like when they first inquire, they'll probably see, different messaging. They're like, oh, I wouldn't expect to see that from like a CrossFit style gym. And then every single step in the sales process to becoming a member is like totally different to what they expected. And the actual first 6 weeks of training is also pretty different to what they expected. So our hope is that by the end of that, they're like, oh, it is a pretty different gym.
Yeah, right. So what sort of pushback have you encountered?
Oh, not much.
Yeah.
Lots.
Physical.
Like Raph said, it is ever going. We're at the point now where we are looking to completely differentiate ourselves out of the market. We've done a very comprehensive analysis of kind of where we stand and where the market is and where the investment's going and everything that's happening. And there is a small, tiny offering in the market that is completely untapped, which we are looking to transition into, which we can't say too much about yet.
Sure.
But yeah, at this point, to differentiate yourself completely, it's almost how you offer your services is a big one. How your brand looks, right? Everything's so visual these days, from Instagram to YouTube to websites. People's brands exist primarily online. The experience in person can really look quite similar to the rest of the in-person experiences. I'm sure when you go to a chiropractor, when you go to a physio, the in-person experience is relatively similar. 85% of it. You're going to meet a receptionist, you're going to book in, you're going to lie on a table, they're going to manipulate you, they're going to put your hands on you, that sort of shit, right? Yep. Same thing, you're going to lift weights, right? You're going to do some cardio, you're going to get fit, you're going to get told about your nutrition. There's obviously touch points along the way. Operationally, you need to be better at, which will differentiate you. But before you even get to that stage, how is the market going to perceive you to be different? And this draw is your brand. And so that's the point where we're at now, is differentiating ourselves through our brand, and a lot's about to change.
That's awesome. What about from the top down? I know a lot of health clinic owners feel the pressure of their association or regulations, even expectations from the institution. How did you go dealing with the authorities and those who affiliate you, etc.?
Well, that's not really a thing as much in fitness. Like, we never hear from Fitness Australia, and we never really hear from CrossFit. So I think it's a bit different. Okay.
Yeah, cool. What about your team and attracting the best trainers? How does that work if you're not boxed and pigeonholed? Have you gone about attracting people that in a fairly transient industry, right? People don't stick around for ages at the same gym typically. What have you done different?
Well, I think the first thing, like Lachy said, is the branding. Really through the podcast, we've picked up quite a few coaches through the podcast. It's been awesome. And then even the coaches that maybe didn't directly come through the podcast, they're like, once they find out about the podcast, it kind of changes their mind a little bit about the gym. So that's one thing that's it's differentiating. It's different to every other place in there. And then just basically the career prospects of what we have the trainers come here for. So the trainers who come here, we give them a lot more freedom to grow their little business inside the bigger business of the gym, rather than just give them a really limited scope of what's ever going to happen to the gym, which is coaching classes or for a practice, just treating patients for a certain number of hours every single week.
I think tying into that as well is the clientele that excites coaches to work with. I mean, the fitness industry is a status, lifestyle driven industry. People want to be associated with the best. It's not appealing to attract the best coaches that are hey, we're going to train some older people today, and their lives are super dull and boring, and they got a 9 to 5, and they do their kids' sport on the weekend and stuff. And yeah, look, that is what majority of gyms are. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we are in a fortunate position where we are in some very exciting parts of Sydney and Australia. They're very busy. There's a lot of big players and influential people that come into our gym. And I think it just makes the clientele that you're interacting with more exciting on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
And I think that makes a big difference for our team. They see the people that are here and people that are at our gyms, and they're like, wow, this is fun. I want to be amongst these sort of people.
How much input do your trainers have to the types of clientele that you're attracting?
As in deciding what type of clients we'll go after, or just literally? I think from the top down, we've really decided who we want to go after from our experience in running the gyms. So I think we've had a really big influence on that. We've been pretty fortunate that our coach has been pretty on board with that type of client to work with. But our coaches are like the main driver of getting referrals at the gym. So it's going to be like their personality that drives the referrals at the gym. So that's who they're going to go after. But we've just found we've had like really good synergy on like, this is the person we want, and this is the person we want more of, because it's really the person that makes our jobs the best.
Right. Yeah.
That's the one.
So good. I think to distill that down for listeners, probably the two keys that I would write down out of that would be that your branding positions you as a desirable workplace. Yeah, like people want to come and work with you because of the presence and the footprint that you have. And so that's an opportunity for clinic owners. And then pathways, right? In the same way that being a clinician, like a trainer, you get your certificate, you get better at your certificate, and then what? If you can create those pathways for financial freedom, lifestyle, do more of what you love, you're going to attract and retain the best people, best practitioners, which is awesome. How's that journey been then for you boys? You said you're gym rats, love training. You're obviously PTs yourselves. Now, do you spend any time on the coaching floor? And what does your work look like now?
Yes, we don't do much of the training anymore. Like, we're not on the schedule for the gym, but we definitely still like have a presence at the gym. So a lot of what we'll do is we still take after sales and marketing for the gym primarily. So that's like pretty much our number one roles, like all the operations, and then like really developing and managing the team is like super important because it's like such a service heavy business.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all service. Like the team is a massive part of that. So making sure like if that's not firing, then the whole thing is not going anywhere. So that's what we're spending the vast majority of our time.
Okay. With the team stuff, what's meetings? What does the rhythm look like for leadership then? And what are some of the lessons that you've learned around leadership?
So we have a rhythm of it. We do 2 meetings a week, Mondays, Thursdays, every single week. And then we'll meet like individually with the coaches either once a month or once a fortnight, depending on like what level they're at. I think probably one of the biggest lessons is like, hey, we just got to keep this stuff consistent. Like when we didn't keep it consistent, it was like it's always the thing that gets pushed because it's not with a client. Like you never push a client session, but it's so easy to push the internal stuff. Sticking to like really regular schedule on that. And then I think the part of it now that I'm trying to push out on more is having like more involvement from the team, because we have like a really incredible team doing more on the floor stuff now. So we really want to see more of like their involvement and their contribution to those meetings and progressing the team as a whole, rather than it all coming top down.
I also got recommended a really good book. I'll recommend this to anyone who has a team underneath them. It's called The 1 Minute Manager. Don't know who the author is. But anyway, really good book. Fast read in an hour.
It's a 1 minute read.
It's really fast, yeah. It's basically like you just lead through praise. And that's been a really different approach for us. It's not, if you criticize, it's never criticizing the person. It's just criticizing the action that they did. It's not faulting them for who they are. It's faulting them for what they did. So it separates that. It says, you're a really good coach and what you do is awesome. You just made a mistake this time. And you're not like that. You don't make those sort of mistakes. So let's not say, and that's way harsher than, oh, I fucked up and you're a shit coach, or you're so disorganized. You're starting to have them identify with their problems, and that's never good. So yeah, we just try and always build our people up as much as we can through praise.
I like it. How's it go then? If you're like, are you mates with your team?
Yeah, we get along pretty well. I think we spend a lot of time together. We're probably like to and fro with with the team. It probably ends up like a little bit individual cases, but I think we're like at a bit of a fine line. We're not their best friends. Like we're not getting drunk all together every night, but you still got to enjoy each other's company. You spend so much time together.
Yeah, I generally like to, I don't want to set too harsh rules on it, but there's definitely been some lines that we've crossed before that it's like, wow, that we're not going to cross that line again. That was a mistake. But I think a good kind of parameters is, to go out and do things with your staff that are, outside of work things. So like generally try and keep your weekends for your personal time. Yeah, but from Monday to Friday, if the guys want to go, on a Wednesday night and go to get some food, we can go get some food. Or if they want to go for a Friday afternoon beer or whatever, like that's pretty harmless. Mm-hmm. I really think it's like when things start to really drag on into the late hours of the night, or they start becoming parties on the weekends, is when it's like there needs to be separation there.
Yeah, makes sense. How did you guys go then transitioning to, you mentioned sales and marketing. I know you love your spreadsheets and tracking numbers and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't usually come natural to a practitioner, whether a trainer or a therapist. How did you learn those skills and learn to love them?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just had to because we were growing the gyms, 3 locations. I was like, yeah, look, we need like X number of people coming into the gyms this month with all these coaches. What has to happen? And then you just got to go and learn it on the go. And it's the same thing with all the operation stuff as well. It's like, if you got to make payroll and make taxes, then you get your acts together a bit quicker. So I think like we honestly enjoyed it a bit from the start. It's not like we were just like PT is the only thing we ever envisioned for our lives. And it was like a really hard mental barrier to overcome that we could do this stuff. I think we like always enjoyed it, but then out of necessity, got better at it a bit quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like the things that you do that are off the floor, running the business sort of things, they come to you at a point where you just are sick of doing the day-to-day stuff. It's like, what do they say? It's like it's when the pain of staying the same overrides the pain of change. So it's just like, eventually you just get sick of just doing the same thing over and over again. You're fed up and you're like, you know what? I need to take the numbers seriously. And look, once you start digging into numbers, that's the real truth of the business and how it's going. Right. And so I think when anyone, like, I wouldn't even worry about the market. I'll start with the numbers. Get the numbers, get real numbers of how things are going, what cash flow is like, what projections look like. That's going to take you out of fantasy land. That's going to put you in reality.
100%. So let's touch on the marketing stuff. The similarities between a gym and a clinic is it's local business. Yeah. Like there's people are only going to come from a certain radius. So how do you go about attracting people to a local bricks and mortar business?
Yeah. So the most effective things I think we've seen over time are location. Incredible. Not just the suburb you're in, but literally your exposure, your walk past, your traffic, your convenience, your parking. I'd pay an extra $50,000 a year to be in a really hot bed of foot traffic and activity and parking and your client demographic than, some warehouse that's half the price, but it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? It's got just mechanics and fish shops around it and stuff. So, and then the second thing is like, when it comes to marketing, obviously a powerful brand has been so much more important now than it was when we started the gyms. When we started the gyms, there was always a debate if you even need an Instagram account. Nowadays, I would say, in Instagram.
We didn't use Instagram for about 12 months.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. A good Instagram account now is, I'd say it's more like just as powerful, if not more powerful in the fitness industry than a website. And if you need an example of that, one of the most successful gyms in the world, Dog Pound, in New York and LA, go to their website. It's one landing page and it's got 3 paragraphs about what they do and an email. Go to their Instagram. It's got 380,000 followers. They don't have any short of clients. They're working with NBA teams. They're working with actors. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Just because with Instagram, you touch the world, and with your website, you touch the local area. So I guess it does really depend on what you want to do, but Instagram is a very powerful social tool and it's very good social proof as well. These days, people place a lot of weight on it, whether they realize it consciously or not. It's extremely important. Anyone that's not doing that properly, going after their target market properly on Instagram or really even LinkedIn, I guess more for clinics as well, because I guess dealing maybe with more professionals, but any sort of social-based content platform, then you're just making a huge error. Like if you don't believe in that stuff now, if you think it's not important, like you are sadly mistaken.
You're 100% right. Like we say that LinkedIn is brilliant to build your referrer network, but not so much your client network. Right. Yeah, you'll find other business partners, JVs, referrers, but certainly Instagram is where people look. You mentioned at the top there, Raph, you're looking for like professionals, executives, people who are willing to take their health seriously. Are they on LinkedIn? Because I think there's that conception, right, that LinkedIn is just for 15 to 25-year-olds. How does that work? Is Instagram the place for everyone?
Sorry, do you mean Instagram? The busy professional?
Instagram. My apologies. Yep.
Man, it's a good question. Like, I think more and more they are. I think when we were really ignoring it, they actually weren't in more the early days. But I think more and more now they are. What's interesting is sometimes even with those people, they don't actually spend that much time on it, but they still check it. They're still oh yeah, let me check out your gym, and they'll go on Instagram and just check, even though they maybe don't spend that much time there, not as much as they spend on LinkedIn, but it's kind of just a way to look at what how good is something. It's a test, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, just this morning, right, we're moving, so I was looking for gyms. I went to Instagram before Google. And same with like coffee shops. I'll check out their Instagram before Googling them. It's definitely the way to reach people. What about networking? Do you get out and about and say good day to, so not just looking for clients, but looking for partnerships, other businesses to work with? How have you gone in that space?
Yeah, it's something we've always done at the gym. Probably the most recent one is I joined a BNI group, like a business networking group. I think for about 3 months now, 3 or 4 months. And it's been awesome. Like you get the relationships of just like business networking stuff. So like using their services as well. And then also you can pick up, I think, really good clients throughout it as well, because if it's your target market in those groups, then you can pick them up, or they can help refer to other types of people that they know, because they know who exactly you're after. They become really good referral partners. Whereas like a gym, members can be pretty good referral partners, but maybe the education isn't quite there on who exactly you want at the gym, because It's like they just want to bring their friend. So I think they're like really, really powerful. The one we've like never really pulled off that we would love to is we've never actually had a really good relationship with a clinic, or always a clinic that was referring us and referring them. We've tried in the past, had it pretty good, but I know it is a challenging one, because just like I think the professional relationship.
So then what was pretty good, or what are you looking for when you're looking at a relationship with a clinic? Yeah, what works, what doesn't?
Yeah, well, I think for clinic owners, obviously they're quite keen to build relationships with gyms. And I think it's really important for them to keep in mind, like, what's the best thing for the gym. And like the best thing for a gym is like you first of all, like really fast and responsive in like taking care of the client. Obviously do a good job, but you get them back to the gym as soon as possible. That's your number one. And then your number two is when appropriate, also recommending the gym for your other clients that really need gym service. Like those are the best things a clinic can do for a gym. And sometimes, like even in the networking group, I've noticed like sometimes that can like maybe just like no, they don't quite realize that's exactly what a gym is after.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you're going to send someone to me as a physio, the worst thing I can do is tell them to stop training, right? Because they're going to cancel their gym membership, and that's no good for anyone. So the lesson there for clinic owners is if you're getting referrals from gyms, make sure you're sending people back to the gym to keep training, work on their rehab exercises or accessories or scaling options. And that referral pathway has got to be both ways, right? If you're just growing someone's clinic, that's very lovely of you, but there's a commercial reality that's got to go both ways, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I can't believe when clinic owners do it, because sometimes like a client will come to me, it'll be like maybe their first 6 weeks at the gym, they'll have like a pre-existing injury, so they'll go to someone that I don't know, and they'll tell them like, hey, I'm starting this, like it's the injury, and then the clinic owner will just be like, okay, cool, definitely don't go for like the next 2 months, like it's not the right time, don't do it. And they come and tell me, and I'm always like, first question, oh, cool, what was the clinic? And they tell me, I'm like, cool, I'll never ever send someone there, and like for sure I won't recommend them, because that's like usually not the right thing. It's like zero activity in any sense. So I just think it's like not the best thing for the general reputation for your clinic either.
Yeah, you're right. It's not evidence-based. But that's a conversation for another day. Let's touch on retention with clients, or we would usually refer to it as nurturing. How do you maintain the longevity of a relationship with clients in, let's say CrossFit space or higher level functional gyms? Typically there's a high turnover. Retention might not be forever. How do you create amazing experiences that clients stick around for long term?
Yeah, I just don't think that the group model was designed to retain people. What was designed to retain people in any form of business is a one-on-one relationship. Either that, or you're doing some kind of subscription to something extremely cheap and it's tech-based, right? Those have high retention. Like Netflix, I'm sure, has really high retention.
Sure.
I know one of the companies that sponsors Spotify has like 1% churn or something, just because these are like essential things. But that's kind of different. But for us, it's the relationship. If our coaches don't have one-on-one relationships with clients, if they're just a number in the group class, they'll get massive push, but they're not in the door. So once that flow of lead, they're just going to lose their client base very quickly. And we see it happen all the time. It's slowing down now. But yeah, I just don't see anything better than that. Yeah, you can talk about, text message services and emails and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't come close to a really solid one-on-one relationship with a coach.
Does that relationship extend beyond the gym floor though?
Not really. It's just like maybe there's some text messaging and calling and that sort of stuff, but it's not like they're going out for nice dinners and that sort of stuff. I know some of our coaches might go for a surf or something. They might go for a hike with one of their clients or whatever if they get invited on it, but they're not being super proactive to be involved in a physical way outside the gym with their clients' lives.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Is there any other elements that you touch on in and around the experience of your members, other than just the programming, that makes them sticky with Creature?
There's a few.
Yeah, and we try all different types of things to get them there, like monthly social events, obviously stuff like that. We always say 3 things. There's 3 things we do for every client when they come to the gym: body transformation, learning new fitness skills, and friendships at the gym. And what we usually find is, like, if you get the first one, they're definitely going to stick around for a while. But, a year in, most people are kind of done with their physical change normally, because they came in close to where they wanted to be. And then the physical fitness stuff often gets more interesting to them, and that keeps them in the gym for a while. But then once they've done, maybe more than 12 months, 18 months, even that starts to really, plateau, because they're advanced trainer. You don't go from you don't just keep progressing like crazy. You're after marginal gain. So then it's really the friendships that keeps them super sticky at the gym in the very long term. We think about the clients that have been around for a long time. Those first 2 things come almost not much at all at that point. It's the friendships that that's the funnest place in my day is to go to. So I think if we can get our clients with good friends, look forward to coming to each day.
Yeah, I love it. Good stuff. Thank you. And it's really important. It's a good lesson that that community extends beyond just the one-on-one relationship from practitioner to client. Yeah, there's a community and there's peer connections and peer support in and around that. One last thing I want to touch on, gents, is podcasting. So you have a podcast that's really, it doesn't, I guess, directly build your gym. The audience isn't necessarily clients. You're speaking to people around the world. You're talking to other business owners. I know you're now helping other people with building a podcast and educating people how to start a podcast. What's been the impact of a podcast on your business and then on your career and life generally?
Man, life would be very, very different without the My Muscle Project, put it that way. It's obviously been fortunate to get into the game early enough to build a really captive audience, and be one of the top health and fitness in Australia. And it's meant that we can work with some pretty amazing brands. It's meant that we've had a different source of income, a different company to run, a whole different side of the industry, media and content creation and that sort of stuff. The business exists wholly online, so it's very different to the gyms, and I think it's good because it gives us a different skill set, different kind of understanding of just new media. It's just a totally different. It's the whole thing's different operationally, everything. Right. what's important, and just how quickly it can scale, which is just nuts. In terms of how it's how it's helped our careers, it's just definitely given us maybe more self-belief in terms of, hey, the stuff that we're putting out there, the information that we've acquired from our own life experiences and that we're sharing is useful for people. People want to hear about it. People follow us. A lot of people message us all the time with stuff we say on the podcast. They're that resonated with me. Oh, wow, that's changed my life. I couldn't believe it. And, it's just us being authentic. It's us just sharing our experiences honestly and never really picking a side on anything and just trying to call it. I think that's just been a really, been really fortunate to get that opportunity.
Yeah, love it. Unreal. It's so much fun. Would you recommend people think about starting their own podcast, or is it a waste of time?
Definitely not a waste of time. I think, 100% would. I think particularly these days, it's when Lachy was setting all up on this, when we first started, there wasn't as much information, and it was actually harder to get it all going back then. But now I think so many people doing it, it's not that difficult to get your own podcast started. It's one of those things that giving it a go, almost everyone is oh man, I'm so happy I did it. And it probably can be misleading. It's probably easy to think oh, everyone's got a podcast now. But you could be wrong. Maybe in 10 years you look back on now and be oh, no one had podcasts back then. Now everybody's got a podcast. So you got to start at some point.
I also say that I think a lot of people start podcasts, and like anything, it's one of those things where the best in the world make it seem so easy. If you listen to Joe Rogan, if you listen to Tim Ferriss or Gimlet podcast, it just sounds so effortless, and it makes a lot of people think, oh, I can do that. That seems pretty easy. He makes $50 to $100 million a year. I can get a slice of that. But it's way more difficult than I think people realize. And it's taken us to this point. It's taken us 5 years, 5 years this month, actually, to get to the level that we're at. Just how you interview people, how you interact with each other, how you build the dynamic, how you tell your story, all these different elements that go into it, which when someone's listening to it, it just sounds really easy. Everything just flows really nicely into the next thing. but it's taken so much practice. It's taken deliberate practice. It was bad. Why did it go bad? Okay, we have to change this. We have to change that. There's a lot that goes into a lot of practice, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I think that a lot of people, because it seems so easy, like when you watch Roger Federer play tennis, like, fuck, I'll just go play tennis. That shit seems easy. Have the wrong expectations. The same way they think they can hit 5 aces in a row, but they can't even, throw the ball and make contact with it, is the same way that they go into podcasting thinking they just got to knock it out of the park and 1,000 people are going to listen to it on day one. It's so saturated these days. It's so difficult. There's so much competition that it shouldn't stop you from starting, but you should just have your expectations really low at the start. Don't overinvest in it straight away. Don't go out and like the craziest mics and all that sort of shit. Just start, put it out to some people, see how you like it. Some people can even start a podcast and never release anything, but even just the process of going through that is valuable as well. So I think it's definitely important. I definitely wouldn't say it's essential, but I think a lot of people should try it at least.
100%. Absolutely love it. Boys, that's been amazing. I'm sure there's plenty of little pearls for clinic owners to pick up on. And, I often think that we can learn so much more from people outside of our own industry. We get so clouded and stuck in our own little bubble. So I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and insights from your space to ours. Yeah, just really humbled that you'd come and join us. And if people want to check out the Mind Muscle Project or Creature, how do we do that?
Yeah, the Mind Muscle Project on any podcast platform, on Instagram, the Mind Muscle Project, and on Instagram, we're just Creature Fitness as well. You can just kind of see what the gym does and a lot about branding and that sort of thing.
Love it. Boys, I love the podcast. I'm an avid listener. So listeners, I definitely recommend subscribing and jumping on the Mind Muscle Project. There's a little bit of business talk every third or so episode, which is unreal and definitely relatable for clinics. Lachy, Raph, Mind Muscle Project, thank you so much for joining us, boys. It's been amazing.
Thanks so much. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being on. And you've done a killer job. So you should be definitely proud of this podcast. It's good.
And when all the clinic owners jump on the podcast, we play physio and chiro a bit on our show. So just don't message us with all the stuff we get wrong. Just we don't care. We just have a crack. I'm sure we're
go to Jack O'Brien.
We're breaking some laws, but we're physio on the podcast.
Yeah. Love it. Thanks, boys. And listeners, we can't wait to bring you another episode really soon. Make sure you check out the show notes over at clinicmastery.com/podcast for all the goodies, and we'll link up everything to track down Raph and Lachy. Thank you, listeners. We can't wait to talk to you again really soon, and bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast. And please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.